during business school, hosting these tasting menu dinners for friends, doing ramen pop-ups. Before I knew it, I was definitely focusing more on cooking than I was on class. Right now, I work at Meta, but if you told me that I can work at your place, I will quit my job at Meta.
How did you make this beautiful product happen?
I have never been proud of the product that I'm selling, because I'm always working on the next one.
It's very hard to start from 0 to a few hundred, but they're family and friends, and they're not going to buy all your inventories.
Yeah.
What happened to the manufacturer side?
Oh my gosh. There were both industry challenges and personal challenges.
Hi, Preston. So
Hello.
good to see you. Hi. You've done a lot of things in the past few years. You and me, we met at Meta. You were doing great at Meta, and then you left. You left it for somewhere in Europe to learn how to cook. And then you came back, invest some time building an app. I want to learn more about that. But now also working at Reddit while you are building a brand new brand, Naomi, which is a premium garlic removal hand soap and more.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious what happened, how this journey has been. Maybe take me and us back to the moment when you were still at Meta, but start to think about, hey, maybe it's time for me to pivot that journey and try something completely different.
Sure. I think the right way to tell that story would be to start at business school. So me before my time at Meta. When I was at business school, I found myself with way more free time than when I was working before business school. And I was like, what am I going to do with this free time? I realized cooking was that thing for me. Cooking was the thing that was going to allow me to take some of my non-career work ambitions and center them on one goal. So I found myself during business school hosting these tasting menu dinners for friends and doing ramen pop-ups. And before I knew it, I was definitely focusing more on cooking than I was on class.
You went to Wharton, huh?
Yeah.
You went to Wharton, and
I did,
that's extremely intense MBA program, which is for the people who don't know. And I would imagine most of people will be busy with resume updating, mock interviews, networking, while you were doing ramen pop-ups. Talk to me about this.
I think it's something about my personality where when I can focus my energy on some creative thing that's outside of the day-to-day, it actually gives me more energy for the thing that is important, like the actual career stuff. I think it's like just having this negative or opposite topic to let some of my brain focus on, so then I can use the rest of my brain on the more career job-oriented work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found the balance kind of cooking and school kind of natural in a way. So when it came to working my post MBA job, which was at Meta, I tried to find that same balance. So in San Francisco, I was hosting pop-ups, whether I did like a ramen pop-up for 100 people in Japantown in SF, or most weekends I would host 6 people for dinner and just try different dishes. So it was something where I found myself valuing this time I was spending on cooking, and even found myself more productive at times because I was focusing on cooking, kind of counterintuitively.
Why cooking?
It's something about the how the feedback loop is so different from what we're doing in technology. It's like you feel and see your results immediately. I can do 10 tests in a day and see what works out, right? And another special thing about cooking is how much you can share the hobby compared to other hobbies. Like I used to be really into music, but my music tastes are so different than the music tastes of my friends. I couldn't be like, hey, I wrote this song for you, check it out, but you can invite someone over. You can, but you get less of a response than if you say, hey, I cooked you dinner. So
fair point.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like a creative outlet. it's very tangible, and yeah, something about the communal aspect of having friends over to try things as you get better really resonated with me. I also had the opportunity to work short stints in restaurants because I recognized like there's only so much I could learn from, YouTube videos and
Self-learning. Yeah,
yeah,
YouTube
exactly.
University. Yeah.
Yeah. So whether it was between semesters at Wharton or like between Wharton and Meta or even, weekends while at Meta, I would find time to learn at restaurants, which like the intern uh concept at restaurants is called staging. So I would stage at restaurants. Um, and it was fun, but in some ways I felt like a tourist, like I like being at these restaurants only for a short period of time.
Hmm.
Um, you're not going to learn as much as if you fully dove into the work.
Hmm.
Um, so eventually at Meta, when the job wasn't as fulfilling to me anymore, when I felt like I wasn't learning and I wasn't really happy with where things were going, I sent some messages to my favorite restaurants, and I basically said, this is the cooking I've been up to. These are the restaurants I've been working at. Right now, I work at Meta, but if you told me that I can work at your place, I will quit my job at Meta. Um, and to my surprise, two of them said yes, and so the next step was planning my last day.
Oh my gosh. When you send those letters, will you
Hmm.
serious think about, you know what? Any chance any one of those restaurants come back to me and they said yes, I would literally quit. Was that like true?
I It was true, but when I sent those letters, tech was more stable than it is now. Like
Yeah,
I sent those letters before Meta's big layoffs that kind of cued,
that
the
was one
industry's
of the best
layoffs.
job in the industry, you
Yeah.
know? And
So I
as a
felt,
colleague, you're one of the best PMMs as I was
thank you.
working with. Yeah, so that's why I'm very curious.
Mm,
Um, what have you been through? Um, for the years at Meta, what were you feeling that triggered you? Hey, you know what? Maybe I can pause a little bit or explore
hmm.
an opportunity or possibility doing something so different.
Yeah.
And how much determination you actually had at the moment. Or is it just, you know what, today sucked. I want to send a letter. Or it's like, I've been thinking about this coming back to me every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do something. Like, what was the situation?
It was a mix. There was the part of me that was just driven by the hobby, saying like, in the only way that I'm going to get really good at this is if I take more time.
Mm.
It was also driven by, like kind of that unwarranted self-confidence that like, I can always come back. I can always, I'll like, it's not a forever decision. Um, and then there was times of, real negativity and feeling down in the role. There was a time where I was hiring other PMMs to work on the team, and and Meta did a layoff that basically the person that was going to start for me in the following week was
Uh-huh.
laid off before their day one.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just thinking like that is not a human decision. Like that is not a kind way to approach like people that likely quit their past job to work at this job. Like how much do I want to invest in a company that is going to make those sorts of decisions? So it was a mix of those three factors, I'd say, that gave me the confidence.
Mhm.
I think also was made easier by the fact that the restaurants that I sent messages to, I really admired. So I felt like this was like a very special opportunity and time. It wasn't like, like the restaurant down the street. It was the ones that I would gladly fly to eat at, that sort of thing.
Have you tried those restaurant before?
Yeah. Yeah. They were both restaurants I really admired. And I think the reason why I was able to ultimately get those stage opportunities with them
Mhm.
was because I made connections when I did dine there. Like they saw that I
Oh.
was like very interested in the cuisine and in the techniques, and I kind of maintained connections that I think would have separated me from someone else that's in tech just shooting off an email, right?
Well, to be
Yeah.
honest, I think the fact that you're from tech industry sending that email already differentiated you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
How did you interact with the restaurant or the staff there, while you're dining there?
Yeah.
What happened?
I'll focus on Alouette. There's a one Michelin star restaurant in Copenhagen.
Mm,
They're kind of known for using or focusing on the purveyors and farmers local to Copenhagen or Denmark, and really showcasing the skills of those purveyors in like in novel ways, right? So with a menu that spans lots of different suppliers and all this,
mhm.
it's very possible that you could show up there and you could work on one thing the entire time and never really learn, um, which would be which would be a bummer, because like a restaurant which such that spans, so much, you want to experience that span in your time there. So I was very thankful that the head chef at this restaurant understood what I was trying to get from it. And he understood that like if he exposes me to these different things, like I'll of course be better off, but the restaurant could be better off too, because I'm coming in there with a unique perspective, and I'm going to be asking different questions than the average person. So just about every week I was actually assigned to a different station. So one week I was doing the desserts. The next week I was doing the lamb. The next, and so I got an exposure that allowed me to be kind of more curious, um, which I think was really important during this restaurant experience. Um, the other thing I'll say that was special about this restaurant is, there are a lot of restaurants that you own components of dishes. So imagine like I'm making the onion that's part of this dish, and I'm
Mhm.
making that onion all day. At this restaurant, you not only own the full dish but you're also often serving that dish to the customer. You're not in the back of the kitchen. So you see this full cycle of, idea to delivery, that makes you more accountable for the end product. You even own the dietary replacements. If someone has a dietary restriction, whatever's replacing that dish, you own that one too.
Oh, wow.
Um, so that was really helpful for me to understand, where my role fits in the broader restaurant,
Mhm.
goals. And it helped me to understand how restaurants are, especially ones that operate like this, are motivating people to feel accountable. So yeah,
So,
between
so
the
even
curiosity of the first, yeah,
as an intern there, or
hmm
the temporary program, um,
yeah.
you were allowed to create a dish from beginning to the end and also deliver
Well,
to the customer and see their feedback. This full loop.
the, I mean, I was still working alongside someone that was ultimately owning that station, right?
Mhm.
So like there would be dishes that, I would be responsible for, gathering the components, plating, serving, but there was usually someone that was there to say, I've done this for the last 6 months, so, we're not going to have you do it on your own. So I wasn't like kind of without support and guidance.
Mhm.
But I nonetheless, uh, got to experience the start to finish in a way that's unique for a lot of restaurants. So it was kind of the perfect opportunity for someone coming from that tech experience, um, to not only learn but be curious, be held accountable. So I really lucked out with the restaurants that ultimately said yes to my idea.
Did you have any like prerequisite or like skill in cooking beyond just what you've learned, self-learned from YouTube?
Yeah, well, I mean, the short times that I did spend at restaurants, like I spent like multiple weeks over time working at restaurants before I got to this point.
Mm.
What you learn a lot about is organization.
Mhm.
You learn about when is the right time to make something such that it's ready and in the perfect condition exactly when it's needed, uh, without causing some strain or bottleneck on others. Um, that sort of thing is very different than when you're cooking on your own in the kitchen, where you can spread out your space and you have all the time in the world.
Yep.
You make your own time constraints in your own kitchen. So this wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't done prior experience with restaurants to help learn that organization.
I see.
So I came into it with a good feel for how I should operate in the kitchen.
Yeah. Apparently, you've been exposed to all different areas of cooking at a backstage and a front stage
Hmm.
through this whole process. Which stages or, phases is your favorite experience?
On a personal level, what I like to do most is like working on new recipes, and that's what brought me into cooking is actually the experimentation, the A/B testing your way to creating something that's novel, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, I did that less at these restaurants because, like just kind of joining some operation, but I was able to see the ways that they are incorporating, this sort of R&D process into the day to day. And so even just witnessing that, I think was the most special opportunity for me, or what I enjoyed the most because of how I was able to kind of take it back home with me.
How does a best-in-class restaurant innovate their recipe?
So, so some of them,
Yeah.
the most extreme ones, they have an R&D team. They'll have someone that's working almost exclusively on recipe development.
Mm.
Um, but that is a luxury that most restaurants don't have. Usually, someone, whether it's a head chef or a sous chef, in addition to working on delivering today's menu, they're also doing little tweaks as they go, and whether that be a slight iteration to a current dish to see if we could take it to a different direction next time,
Hmm.
or a new idea entirely because something else is in season, that sort of thing.
I see.
Um, so this was closer to the latter, where um, I saw the head chef that was um, otherwise responsible for making sure the whole evening is going well. He's taking like the big picture, think like director level view,
Hmm.
but with a spare half hour each day, diving into some tests. And then over the course of the week, those half hours adding together to be something that makes it on the menu at the end of week 4 or something.
I
Yeah.
remember I talked to this bartender. It was in some island, I forgot where, but they constantly talking about the mix for new innovative cocktail recipe.
Hmm.
That's exactly how they do it. Every day they make sure the bar is operating as usual. While on the side, if they got an inspiration or a new fresh ingredient, they would
Yeah,
like to try it out and test them out and store there for maybe weeks just to see how that changes and evolve and
totally.
eventually can that stabilize into some recipe. So have you done something very innovative and you feel like it's super fulfilling and proud or interesting, or failure, that's fine too.
Yeah. So at this point, it's something I'm really proud of. And, if I'm trying to impress anybody, even if it's someone that's really into ramen and they're from Japan, like that's what I'm going to serve them. Um, that is a very time intensive process to even do a single test of that recipe. Uh,
Hmm.
so I, so it's hard for me to point to, like,
And
like
walk me
that,
through what that
yeah.
process looks like. Walk me through.
Yeah. So the a ramen recipe, consists of many things. One of them being broth, right? So
Hmm.
let's just take the broth.
Yeah.
Um, the What I'm likely doing when I'm working on the ramen recipe, the broth, I'm going to make multiple broths, um, all with slight variation. So, it might be something as simple as, I'm going to put in twice the amount of ginger in the broth as it's cooking. As, A will have 2x ginger, B will have 1x ginger.
Yeah.
And then I'll otherwise make everything as normal. And when it comes to try the dish, I'll make one of each and I'll test it and
Mhm.
see which one I like better. Um, because I'm usually doing this for lots of guests, and to be frank, they're not going to notice the difference between 2x ginger and 1x ginger.
All right.
After I figure out what works, I'll combine the two, and then I'll serve it to friends. They won't know the difference. But then the next time I'll work from that 2x ginger, and I'll start to test something else. And
Mhm.
so because ramen is very modular, I could do a test from the broth one day and also a test on the,
Topping.
chashu the same day. Yep, exactly. So one experience serving ramen to 6 friends, I might have 5 learnings at the end of that,
Mm.
so that's why I can say that I've done like hundreds of iterations on this ramen recipe that I'm proud of.
But if it's A/B
Yeah.
testing, I guess, like you said, it's only one variable at a time. So this time
hmm
I can only test ginger in the broth. Can no other stuff. How do you usually get an idea of what to be tested? Is that like a scientific principle or just purely by your own taste and the inspiration?
It's not scientific principle. It is usually just seeing a recipe elsewhere that you're like,
Mm.
wow, I never considered that, if you do XYZ, let me try that to see if it works in this ramen context. Or it might be, yeah, just usually when you cook something, you don't just you often identify something wrong with it. And then
Mhm.
then it's just a brainstorm like, okay, what possibly could have contributed to that thing being wrong? Um, like I you could A/B test absolutely everything, but that's not super efficient. So you do have to be hypothesis driven in some way. And the way
Mhm.
you do that is by like being thoughtful about the prior dish.
Do you think you will be more sensitive in terms of taste out that, hey, there's something wrong? Versus maybe me, oh, it was great. And maybe I don't taste anything different between the viral. Do you think you have a more sensitive taste in a sense? And why do you think you picked the ramen?
Yeah. I I do think I have a more sensitive taste for the things that I cook often, right? Like
Mm.
um I you know at this point I when I have a ramen broth, like I'm very opinionated on it. And if I go to if I go to a restaurant that's serving a broth that's not ramen, maybe it's just a fine dining restaurant and they serve like one of the courses is a broth. That one probably is the worst course for me because at this point, like I'm so opinionated about the things they could have done different. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but they're going to serve a lot of things that I don't have uh, that history of tasting that
Mm.
I won't know better. So it's very like dependent. It's not like a universal skill that I've developed. Uh, but the reason why I did ramen was just at Wharton I realized it was something that I could serve for friends in great bulk.
Mm.
Like I was doing these little fine dining menus for friends that realistically I couldn't serve for more than 6 people. But this one was just as hard to do for 6 as it was for 20.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah,
It's a big pickle bowl of the soup and the topping and
yeah,
the ramen. So it's modularized. It's easier to put them together and keep the consistency in the tasting.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Oh my gosh. And so you spent a few months. How long you spent in
No, I was only
Copenhagen?
doing it for 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I did it for 2 months. And because during the time that I was doing that, I got a message from basically a founder that reached out and said, um, like I'm building this home cooking video recipes app. Um, it is like the Netflix for video recipes. And we'd love for you to be a part of it. And that's when I realized like, oh wait, like, maybe I can do both of these things at once. I can do the tech and the food. Um, and that was just a really exciting idea to me. So, yeah, 2 months later, I was already ready to to see if I could do food plus tech.
But were you thinking about just staying there, continue the restaurant work plus doing the tech, or you think I have to leave and, go back to US and,
Mm.
do food in a different way?
My plan was definitely to go back to the US.
Mm.
Um, but I was hoping that I would be able to do the food tech work while um, really expanding my pop-up experience.
Mm.
So like basically taking what I learned and at these restaurants and, just leveling up everything I had done previously.
I see.
So yeah, that was the goal.
Yeah, so those 2 months on the flight, flying to Copenhagen, think about embark on this brand new journey in this top-notch restaurant, learn everything from the best. And 2 months later, when you're flying back, how is the expectation of, and also the experience lineup?
Mm. I was I would say the expectation was about it about matched what I actually did. Like I knew I was going to be challenged. I knew I was going to learn a lot. Um, I knew, I'll probably make a few people mad along the way because they're going to be like, this guy isn't as fast as me, or like, I don't want to be teaching this guy right now. Um, and yeah, that's about what happened. Like I learned a lot. I didn't step on too many toes, but it is what it is. Um, and I had this hope that when I was going to Copenhagen, that I would be able to find some way to, uh, not only do cooking, because
Mm,
part of my ambition is also scale, and like you can be creative at a restaurant, but like you can only achieve so much scale doing that. Um, so I was hopeful that I could find some way to do that, to do the cooking with tech. I didn't know what that would mean. Um, so this app that I was invited to do product for, felt like a kind of very rare chance to try that sooner than I expected.
yeah, yeah. So it's more than just cooking. There's also like how to run an operation or, restaurant or more at a larger
Yeah,
scale. It's kind of like in the back of your head. You mentioned
yeah,
about like, stepping on the toes, make mistakes. Give me a mistake.
sure. Let me think of one. Okay, so here's an example.
Yeah.
I was making a dessert that you actually have to it has eggs that you have to temper. So you have to slowly bring these eggs to a certain temperature. So like basically they're pasteurized and they thicken a little bit, but they don't cook to a degree that it's going to like scramble.
Hmm.
It's very um and what I didn't realize when I was making this dessert was that the place that I put the pot after it was done
Yeah.
um, was also going to be used as a heat source for someone else on a future time. Um, and so I actually put this pot down. Someone else turned up the heat and basically undid my my careful tempering of these
Temperature
eggs.
control.
Yeah. And so I had to strain it all and just hope for the best that like these little scrambled pizzas weren't going to make a difference. And ultimately they didn't. But that was a worry, and it was me thinking like, what could I have done differently? Like, did I make assumptions about like this area is not going to be used right now? And I can't I can't expect that all the other cooks in the kitchen are going to be aware of how temperature specific the thing that I'm putting down is. Um, so I definitely, it was a mistake that you learned from, but yeah,
But I can't even imagine, like, if I were you in that position, as a rookie, trying to
yeah,
temper this egg, preparing for a dessert that is about to be served, and now it's overcooked. What,
yeah.
what was that feeling?
Well, that's when you have to go ask for help. Like I went to the guy that was the responsible for all desserts, and I let him know what
Yeah.
happened. And he basically looked at it and he was like, "We'll try. We'll see what we can do. We'll try. We'll try." Um,
Okay.
and and it takes cooking is something that takes improvisation. We like you don't want to waste ingredients, so you do hope for the best. And ultimately, it was a small enough problem that it didn't impact anything, and we were fine.
Mm.
But let's say we cooked it and it didn't work out. At that point, the guy that I asked for help, he probably would have been spinning through his head, what are desserts we could make very quickly between now and service, which at the very least we would have known 2 hours in advance. In this specific case. So there, there's always a solution, some more elegant than others.
Yeah, I feel this in this context, the space for the mistake is more narrower, smaller than how we work in the
Yes.
tech world. So let's say I screw up this
Yes.
paper or the stack. Oh, I'm just gonna spend another hour, redo it or fix it or pull the data again. But
Yep.
here, you got a guest sitting at that table expecting all the dessert to be served at the same time,
Yep.
living up to the expectation. So I feel like it's even more nervous and, much more pressure.
I I agree in some sense. I agree from the perspective that, yeah, like if you are goaling yourself on some specific measure, you could fail in that thing, and you'd know very quickly. I agree. But the special thing about cooking, or maybe the special thing about hospitality,
Mm-hmm.
is it can reward people that are willing to take risks for the sake of the guest. So, like, let's say that that didn't work out. If you're able to overcome that in a way that breaks the customer expectation, um, like so now you're measuring success in a different way. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
did I achieve that dessert the way it is, but like, did I make it, like, okay, let's shift from plan A, and let's just try to exceed the client's expectation. Um, that's something you could do. Like an example, when I was working at this restaurant, there was a Polish chef,
Mm-hmm.
um, and when he made a meal for the employees for lunch, he actually made a cake, a Polish cake, and it was just for us to have at dinner, or sorry, at like lunch, like on our own. Um, that night, a Polish guest came in,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we could have said, "All right, we've executed that dessert perfectly. Let's serve the planned dessert," but it was his idea, like, let's up the hospitality. We have some of this Polish cake on hand. What can we do in this moment to make it even more special and serve it to them and have them feel like, like
Feel like
you're
home.
exceeding their expectation? Yeah, exactly. And so like those sorts of creative improvisations are possible in the hospitality world, and they're not possible in tech.
Oh, wow. Um, and I think the reaction from those guests, if it's,
Yeah,
probably sometimes will give you a lot of satisfaction. Like, okay, this is the whole reason why I'm doing this.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Then after 2 months, you flew back
hmm
doing something brand new. So tell me, what are you doing
Yeah, so I was working as basically head of product for this tech startup called Crème.
now?
They were making step-by-step video recipes. So imagine you open up a recipe, and every step of the recipe is a looping video. So you can swipe, add the eggs, you swipe, temper the eggs, swipe. So it was designed to basically make it basically foolproof to recreate these recipes, and chefs and restaurants were submitting the recipes and making revenue from the recipes that they submit. So it's
Oh,
sort of like imagine like Spotify, the way that is for music, but for chefs.
oh, very cool.
Um, yeah, it was really interesting. It was an opportunity for me to go from PMM to product and work closer to food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it felt like an opportunity where I couldn't turn it down. So
I
that's
know.
why, yeah,
It's like the perfect bridge of
yeah,
you, what are you professionally known for, and what are you passionate about?
yeah,
Mix them together into one and add on new challenges because it's a startup, it's not a large tech, and it's a new environment. So, how was that experience? I know you spent like 2 years over there.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot different than I expected. I think as working at Meta, for example, we take advantage of product market fit. It is, like that is a machine because we have found extreme product market fit at Meta. At a small startup like this where you haven't yet achieved product market fit, and you're going to try and test your way to get to product market fit, but you can feel rudderless. You can feel like this like, will I ever get this to the point where it needs to be?
Mm.
And that sort of
Let,
uncertainty I really didn't expect. It was still really fun, but yeah, it was
yeah.
quite different.
Let me clarify for whoever is listening. So, this product market fit, are we talking about, we need to figure out this thing? Who is that for? What problem we can actually solve for them? Is that
hmm
what you're talking about? And that's something you're trying to
Exactly.
hone for this product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we found with this product, for example, that the product market fit was difficult because the recipes that chefs wanted to send in tended to
Mm.
be these impressive recipes.
Sophisticated.
Right. Yeah.
Multitask.
Exactly. But the people that benefit from step-by-step videos want
Me.
something simpler. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And ironically, those people that benefit from the step-by-step videos, in some ways, seeing a recipe on TikTok or on Instagram that's very simple. It might not be the step-by-step format, but because it's done in 30 seconds in a video, it's like, oh, there's a new level of confirmation for me that I can complete this recipe.
Yep.
And it's very difficult to compete with, TikTok and Instagram for people in that space. So, yeah, it was an absolutely gorgeous product. It was really fun to use. And just like the design of this product, the founder is like best designer like I've ever worked with by far. Um, I learned so much working with that, but eventually we realized like this product has to take a different approach to reach product market fit. And that new approach was probably going to take another couple years. So for me, it was like, all right, I'm gonna go find a new job and work on something else.
I see. Did you?
Yeah.
Were you the one who find out? Hey, you know what? This product doesn't really resonate with the target audience we imagine. Like, how did you find
No,
out that problem?
I mean, I think with a small startup like this, everyone's talking about all the problems together. Everyone's brainstorming. We're all looking at the data and understanding like um, who are the types of people we're attracting, who's the types of people that we're retaining. Um, and so yeah, it was very collaboratively. We learn what works and what doesn't. There's still a lot that works, and that like the next stage is like how do you extract the value from what works. It was just that like my personal fit for where it was going made less sense at that stage. Yeah.
I see. And comparing to working at a large tech,
hmm
working at a startup, how does that feel? Like overall way of working, the pace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love working at a small startup compared to working at something like Meta.
Yeah.
Because it goes beyond reducing the red tape, and it becomes like you are making those decisions, and if you're not making those decisions, then no one's making those decisions. So like extreme accountability, and it's closer to food in the sense that you are getting faster feedback loop because you can move faster, and because um, you have a um, impact on such a larger percentage of the overall product experience. Yeah.
Do you think you're a kind of person like desire for the full ownership, would love to see the things built from scratch all the way to the end, have the pretty much the full control of it? Like, do you see yourself like someone like that?
I don't think I need full ownership, but I do
Mm,
want to be part of the experience. I do want to be part of the start to finish
mm,
because I personally don't feel any ownership over something that I didn't help design from the start. Like because I I, I think that the best products are ones that you bake in the value from the beginning. Um, and so I want to be part of the early ideation phase, but I also enjoy the execution after the fact.
hmm.
I don't have to be the only one doing it, but yeah, I want to be uh, part of the full life cycle.
Yeah, yeah. And what is like the hardest part when working a smaller team and fast pacing startup kind of working context?
The hardest part was that feeling of not reaching the product market fit and being
Mm,
like, there's just something like something feels out of our control. Like, we can't. It's like there's nothing we can do that's going to change this. And you have to have those hard conversations about, okay, then what do we focus on instead, and how different is that from our initial vision?
yeah.
That yeah, those that realization, which is very, people aren't experiencing that at Meta really, because
It's
at this
proven
point,
success
yeah, yeah,
of the
exactly,
concept.
yeah,
Dive a little bit deeper into that feeling because I can totally
mm,
resonate. Like you just
yeah,
cannot figure out what they want. And that
hmm
may stem out into a lot of self-question, self-doubt. Am I doing this
yeah,
right thing? Am I working on the right product? Are we truly adding real value to someone? Is that someone, the cohort, large enough? Is this a sustainable business? Like, there's just
Exactly. Yeah.
millions of questions come back to me. So
Yeah.
share with me, like, how did you guys handle that situation? Like,
hmm
now we know there's a problem. Number is not getting up. We kind of know why it doesn't work.
hmm
How the team react to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think understanding what the customer wants isn't necessarily the hard part. To me, the hard part is now how do you deliver on what the customer wants in a way that takes advantage of your strategic strengths or your competitive advantage? Um, because otherwise you're delivering something that, the bigger players are going to come in. And with something like this, it's really easy for the bigger players to come in.
Yeah.
Um, the advantage that this firm had was its design talent
Mm.
and its ability to do this like distributed video creation and editing, basically worldwide, like working with photographers worldwide to deliver short form video at very low cost and extremely high quality. So you want to lean into those strengths when you're pursuing what the customer wants. Um, and that's where the frustration lies, but it's just the right strategic move to do that, I guess. So um, we found that, like these videos that we're able to create, this design, the way we're able to drive the customer experience is resonating a lot more with brands than it was
Mm.
resonating with consumers. Because the brands really saw the value of how they could showcase their products. Um, so that you can say, all right, well, great. Now let's start to cater to brands, and that's ultimately what we started working on as I left. But you then start to feel that that feeling of like, oh, but what about that first vision that like when I thought about coming here and helping people cook and making this feel like a bigger scale thing, like so you kind of get married to that idea whether you want to or not. Um, and that is kind of like the internal struggle, even as you make the right business decision.
A lot of founders may have those struggle phases, you know. They
Sure.
all come in with the initial heart, like, this is something extremely meaningful,
Yeah.
the true problem we're trying to solve here. And for some reason, in the middle of the journey, an unexpected value, business value prop being
hmm
discovered, and they need to make a rational decision. Should we keep the business sustained first,
hmm
then kind of like finding our initial
Yep.
dream? So yeah, I can totally feel that debate. What do you think about if you were the founder of your own business, well, which you are, like how would you balance this?
Yeah. It's tough. I with my own business, and we can get into that later, like I've tried not to be too married to some idea. I think you
Mm.
can be married to principles, and those can inform how you
Make a
evaluate
decision.
any idea. Yeah, yeah. I prefer that. And I take the startup that I was just talking about that I was working at, like they're ultimately married to these principles of like of craft and purpose that are really going to benefit the brand as it does this pivot that it's doing now. So I have like I think it's going to be an amazing brand, and maybe one day I'll be like, wow, I should have stuck around longer. Uh, um, but yeah, I think that's what it takes. It's you got to focus on the principles, not on the idea.
Mm.
And yeah, try not to think about the the hype cycle and more on the value you deliver.
What do you think was the principle they're trying to hold on to?
Yeah. So for this company, it's really this idea that um, food is a very communal thing.
Hmm.
Food brings experiences and creates memories in ways that really nothing else does. Um, but too often, the kitchen, it's not optimized for those experiences. The products that we use day to day, they're disposable. They're
Yeah.
they're not thoughtful. There's no like you think of some of the tastemakers in like fashion, I don't know, like Kith or something like this.
Mhm.
There's nothing like that for the kitchen, despite how many brands there are in the kitchen, because people aren't or brands aren't focusing on the memories that you can create for with food. So they basically leaned into this idea that, if you focus on the craft and on the design and on facilitating these memories, then you can build a lasting, um, valuable food-based brand.
Mhm.
Um, and I like, so they're going to focus more on product oriented uh things rather than recipe oriented things. And I think it's going to serve them well.
Cool. And you mentioned about one of the advantage for this company was the talent they have in the design.
Hmm.
They make high quality videos, create a top-notch experience for the users. Um, where were those talents coming from for the first place?
It
Mm.
was founder driven. It was like, this is like the founder was a designer first and foremost.
Mm.
Um, and in the same way that, Steve Jobs would have this hardware software combined, resulting in a better experience. This was, how do I design a business in the same way I would design a user experience? It was
Mm.
like, so he was thinking about, yeah, like, how do I structure the business? How do I structure how the business relates to chefs and other people in the industry? And how do I design the emotions of the product and the UX, all from the same like design principles. So he's a really, really talented designer.
I see. And you came in mostly from business standpoint and the product
Hmm.
and the passion with
Yep.
the food. Um,
Hmm.
what are the team members were there? Because I noticed like you kind of need a little team. Each
Yeah.
person plays different role eventually
Yep.
to bring this thing into life.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, half the company was actually building content around the world.
Mm,
So like, this was a recipe app that had thousands of step-by-step video recipes, all at like chef's table quality, uh, video. So half the team was doing that, and then half the team was focused on building the product itself. So those were really engineers, um, and me and the founder who was the designer, and occasionally we would work with other designers. So yeah, it was I mean, a team of 30 people at one point, but the majority of the people were actually building the content.
I see. So shooting a video globally with those,
Shooting
chef.
either shooting the video or editing it, and having out like working with video talent across the world and doing
Mm,
centralized editing that can be in the consistent style.
I see.
Yeah.
This sounds like um, quite mature, 30 people, a startup. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
not like,
Yeah.
yeah, very extremely early stage. And I'm sure you kind of like, okay, in 3 years, I spent a few months working in the best restaurant, and now I work on an app for a
Hmm.
couple of years. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, at that point, okay, the app need to pivot a little bit. How was your decision made? It was like, okay, I'm gonna rooting for you guys. I believe you continue gonna succeed.
Hmm.
And personally, I may pivot again and then do something very different next.
First, there was just the business reality was that the pivot that they were going to make required less product work in the short term.
Mm,
Um, and because we were going to be basically stepping back from the app that we were working on for so long to focus more on other things. So there was that business reality. But then layer on the fact that over my last few months working at that company, as I was personally struggling with this, like, how do I find product market fit sort of thing, I started looking for other creative avenues on the weekends. And that's when I started working on my current company, Naomi. Um, so, so I was, kind of developing this excitement for something on the side that I was thinking, how can I spend more of my time doing this? And so
mm.
it kind of all happened at the same time where I felt confident
Hey,
moving
did
to
you
the next
notice
thing.
that you work on something, focus on something, but always have some, not side hustle, but to me, it's more than a side hustle. It's like I need some different sparkle going
Yeah.
on in my life to
Hmm.
keep myself going, keep myself excited, and I can continue to invest into.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a pattern throughout my life. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're working on this app, and then you build this thing, the
Hmm.
Naomi garlic removal
Yeah.
soap.
Yep.
Where's this idea coming from?
So initially I was thinking I want to do a CPG product. I was thinking, do I want to make an ingredient and sell an ingredient? So I was brainstorming like what are the ingredients I would want to sell? Where could I add unique value from the food side, and I could take my meta knowledge marketing and then promote this ingredient. But I was realizing quickly as I was coming up with, what ingredient to invent, that there's going to be a lot of hurdles bringing a product like that to market. I'm going to have to be very uh, bold with the investments I make, and it's going to be very difficult for me to make an MVP for a product like that, especially after coming through the startup world and like how the value of MVPs and all this. Like I wanted something that could start small. Um, I realized at some point that there are products that you can make that aren't food that are related to the kitchen that don't have the same startup costs. And soap is one of them. Soap, you don't need the FDA approval. Um, but the way I sort of came to that was as I was trying to make this new ingredient, I was trying to convince my girlfriend, like, and you should do a cosmetics product that we can sell to the same people and we can make a
Synergy.
bundle. Yeah, we can. And she's like, that's an awful idea. And I was saying, well, what if you made like a hand wash for the people that buy my product, and she was not convinced, but in trying to convince her, I convinced myself that like, wait a second, there's an idea here of personal care products for before and after cooking. Um, and then the wheels started turning and the ideas started flowing, and I quickly realized it's a much better idea than the idea that I was trying to pitch to myself. So I told her, you don't like the idea? Fine, I'm going for it.
So initially, how did you jump into CPG? Because it's such a different world versus food, restaurant,
Yeah,
tech. It's a complete
it
different,
is.
industry.
Yeah, and I knew so little about it. I was just trying to think of, I love the cooking.
Mm-hmm.
I want to, but I want to work closer to tech and at greater scale. So we mentioned with restaurants, like, your scale is limited ultimately to the people that are eating there.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I wanted to find that balance. And I think it just seems obvious at first, like it's just the first thing that would come to mind is like, oh, well, I'll make, some culinary product, like a sauce or something.
Oh, that was
Um,
the ingredient you were talking about.
yeah,
Initially, it was,
exactly.
as a sauce.
Yeah,
How can I produce something that can help with cooking? And then evolved into
exactly. Yeah.
hand soap.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
when you landed on this idea, it sounds to me like, oh, it's not like I work at a restaurant and they have garlic smell couldn't be removed. So I'm trying to solve that problem. It's more like a completely different journey. I'm trying to create something at scale that's going to be valuable to the people that I can feel excited to create by myself.
Well, I think the motivation for why I was trying to make anything was
Mm,
that it was the scale, right?
the
But
scale.
and it was the desire to work closer to food while still being close to tech, etc. Um, but why I chose this one in particular, the hand wash for home cooks, it does ultimately stem from desires I saw at restaurants, and actually, more importantly, desires I felt at home. Like
Mm,
when you cook at a restaurant, you have all the resources available to you. You have, there's a dish pit, people are cleaning, there's and everyone you're with is also cooking. So you're in this together. But when you're at home, and remember, I was doing these pop-ups and hosting pop-ups at home, like you're integrating into the lives of loved ones that don't cook.
mm-hmm.
And so when you're trying to make these ambitious meals at home, you have to worry about how do I make sure that I'm not interrupting their lives. And one way you interrupt their lives is with dirty dishes everywhere. Another way is with smells. And my girlfriend would constantly complain when I was doing ramen testing, which is that I use a lot of garlic, like that I smell like garlic, that the house smells like garlic. So, so it was intentional for me to make what I considered a hand wash for home cooks,
Hmm.
because the home use case is actually quite unique because of this fact that you're cooking alongside people that might not cook. Um, so yeah, that's
Yeah.
where it all began.
Um, when you talk about scale, and it's true, and it's very funny to hear you saying, you know what, I never worked in CPG, so I know nothing about it. I'm just, go for it. And then I realized because I worked in CPG, and that stopped me from going for it because I know too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you say you want to scale, I was, oh, that gotta be something lowering inventory, lowering the barrier in terms of investment upfront, the equipment needed,
Hmm.
all that. It has to be a software. It has to be online. It has to be like,
Yeah.
and when you think about it, it's like a physical product. And I immediately thought about all the possible difficulties, like all the problems in my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
And that's why I have so many questions. Like, how did you
Sure.
make this?
Yeah.
I spent years and years making those things. I worked for Lysol, Mucinex, Airwick, um, Digestive Advantage, all kind of products. And I understand at the back end, the R&D process, manufacture, packaging,
Hmm.
approval process for all those things, get them listed and eventually presented to the target audience. And eventually the hardest part is convince them to buy. It's
Hmm.
an extraordinary hard process. And you just alone with your girlfriend. And how did you make this beautiful product happen? To be honest, I'm a marketer. I have to say it's craft in a way was not just professional design, but to me it was love because every single word
Yeah.
printed on this label feels tangible. It's different. It's
Hmm.
3D, and there's different layers of blue. um, this is only your first version, I guess. You're getting better and better. I see all the other products, and I felt fascinated. I got attracted to
Mm.
just this bottle. Not
Thank
to
you.
mention what's inside. What I'm trying to say is there's a tons of love pouring into this product.
Yeah.
On top of the complexity, I was just laying out to whoever is listening. Walk me through how this happened. Like, how did
Sure.
you make this from
Yeah.
scratch?
We talked about my A/B testing recipes, ramen
Yeah.
recipes.
Yeah.
When it came to how do I make a hand wash purpose built for home cooks, I just immediately came to that same thought process as, okay, I just have to A/B test my way to making a recipe like that. Um, so first it started with, what are the goals I'm trying to achieve? I
Mm,
I wanted odor neutralization. Um, I wanted, uh, I want it to be non-drying so you can wash your hands throughout the day, as if you're cooking all the time.
mhm,
I want it to be exfoliating, so you can get away that kitchen grime, etc., but not stripping the skin. And then really just every single component of the soap, you can think of like, well, what would the kitchen version of that be? Take fragrance, like you probably don't want to smell too much like perfume. You probably want to smell it more natural,
yeah.
but you don't want the fragrance to be too high because then it might interfere with kitchen smells. And like take the oil percentage of the soap. Like you don't want it to be too high because if your hands are oily, then from like grease or something, then it's not going to get much more clean. So you can think of all these goals that you hope to achieve. But then I also had the separate goal of I want this to feel like a luxury hand wash because I want this to take the place of the Aesop in the kitchen or something, not be added next to it. And if this is truly a product that is going to be, taking a spot in the most important room in the home, in the kitchen, and
Mhm.
it needs to be used by people that don't cook too. So the first way A/B tested my way towards making this recipe was let me learn how to recreate Aesop soap. And you know, once I figure out how to do that, then I can figure out what are the things I would change about it for the
Wait, wait,
cooking use
wait.
case.
How did you figure that out? how to recreate. You don't have a chemistry background or any degree in that, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But I mean, there's advantages when it comes to culinary ingredients, I'm sorry, when it comes to like personal care products. The
Yeah.
ingredients are listed on the back.
Yeah.
And they're listed in order until you get to 1%, and then they can be at any random order. But each ingredient has a maximum recommended percent you should use. So if I
Oh,
know that one ingredient is here, then I know that I know that ingredient is maximum, say 5%, then I know everything listed below it is less than 5%.
I see.
And so you can actually, I mean, even if you threw it into ChatGPT, like it will do a pretty decent job of guessing this sort of stuff. And then it just comes down to doing the A/B test and finding your way there. And I didn't get to a perfect ASOP dupe by the time I was like, okay, I've learned enough about this process and about what it takes for me to get there, about how each ingredient is adding and subtracting, etc. Eventually I felt confident enough to just work on my specific use case of cooking.
How long it takes you to finally have a stabilized formula that before you even start to optimize with A/B testing? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was like 4 months of testing that I was doing,
Where?
like
Garage?
in my
Base?
kitchen. Yeah.
Um,
Because I was doing very small batches in little beakers, and I would do a few different variants every day. Um, and yeah, once it got to a point that I was confident enough to share with others,
mm-hmm.
then the way I was changing it was responding to their feedback. Um, and so then it could be a little more targeted as less like kind of broad exploration and more focusing on specific goals. Um, the advantage of making it at home for so long, and I made the first 13,000 bottles myself. Um, the advantage of that was I could continue to do little iterations over time and make it better. Um, if I were to go straight to a manufacturer, I would have to lock in before I've gotten any feedback on a specific formula. Um, so I tried to do all I could to minimize the lock-in. So for example, if you look at the bottle you have, the
Mm-hmm.
label is like I apply that label, right? So,
Yeah.
um, so I can easily buy small, batches of labels and larger batches of bottles. Whereas if this is just like a random, like prototype. If I went with this way, which is printed on the bottle, I would need much higher, like,
Cost for iteration,
yeah,
basically. You need to
exactly.
swap
Yep,
out the bottle instead of just the label.
exactly.
So you spent 4 months. That's like hundreds of days in the kitchen, mixing up the water with all the other sodium
hmm
stuff
Yeah.
that I cannot even pronounce,
Yes. Yeah.
mixing by yourself and
hmm
wash and use the garlic and wash, use the garlic and wash. And that's the
Yeah.
process. You
Exactly. Yeah.
alone doing that.
hmm
In the
Yeah.
4 months, was there any point like, oh gosh, what am I doing? Am I crazy? Like, Preston, you're a PMM at whatever tech company, and I'm here doing this soap thing for almost 3 months, and I'm not getting anywhere. Like, was
hmm
there any moment like that?
Honestly, no, I had full confidence that I would get there eventually.
I love
Because
it. Tell me about it.
I was just like, there's only so many ways that this can happen. And if an ingredient doesn't work, then that's not like if something doesn't work, I can try another approach to achieve the same thing. And I just saw so much progress over time that like I knew eventually it was going to work. That said, my girlfriend definitely was like, like, do you have to be doing this at 8 a.m.? Like, and I remember having friends stay over for a weekend, and by the time they woke up, I was already like two hours into testing. It was like, okay, yeah, I mean, it's an obsession that I was having fun with.
Mm,
So I didn't mind, and I did feel confident. I will say though, like I had broad ambitions where I recognized that eventually I would move to a manufacturer. Eventually I would get more professional support on the recipe.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the things I was doing was like, all right, this has to be good enough to prove the value and
Mm-hmm.
good enough to scale. It doesn't necessarily need to be perfect. It just needs to help me justify that I can make that investment in perfect later on.
I see. I
Mhm.
love that confidence, and I actually see that blind confidence in a lot of successful founders because
Mm,
that plays a role as a fuel to continue feel the energy to do the thing you feel obsessed about, and that's
yeah,
the ingredient for eventual scale up you're looking for.
yeah, yeah.
um you mentioned about those little progress. I think the progress really is the key to keep us going.
Hmm.
Mixing the soap, like what progress are you talking about there?
So it's like you can think about it just like how ramen we talked about can be very compartmentalized. I can focus on the broth, and I can focus on this, and
Mm-hmm.
um, I would evaluate each test by, have I achieved the thickness that I'm looking for, the viscosity? Is the fragrance where I want it to be? Is it, as does it lather as much as I'd like it to? Is the exfoliation as much as I'd like it to? And so like to do this efficiently, each test doesn't necessarily need to focus on one component. I can, I can isolate the exfoliation part of the test and the viscosity part of the test within the same test.
Mm,
Um, usually.
I see.
So yeah, you see progress across dimensions, um, but it took a long time for me to feel like the whole product as a whole, was worthy of sharing with others.
In my imagination, you kind of have a system, like you kind of understand every single ingredient, what's that for. And
Exactly.
maybe you have a scoring system, like I mix this percentage of these. This is the score I feel for these different dimensions. Is that how you actually do it?
Yeah, yeah. Like basically, imagine an Excel sheet that has every ingredient, and as a row, and every column was a test,
Mm-hmm.
and you put in the percentage of each ingredient. Now you can't mix them all together, all the ingredients together at once. That's another challenge. Is
Oh,
like some ingredients have to be mixed separately. Some ingredients need to be hydrated over time, and so you have to layer onto that table some knowledge of process. But
yeah.
yeah, that's really how it worked.
Yeah. So ramen has the same spreadsheet, huh?
Yeah,
That's amazing. It's really amazing. Okay.
yeah.
So we talked about the stuff inside. At what stage this liquid inside you feel like, yeah, it's good enough?
It was about 4 months in.
You,
That
you have a feeling, or you were like, okay, this is pretty much, enough effort I should put into this.
it was a feeling, and also it was the urge to not, let perfect prevent me from launching at all, because
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I was baking into the process the ability to iterate. So I just wanted it to get to the point where I felt that the feedback people would give me would be worthwhile.
Mm,
If I shared it at a stage where I had lots of feedback on the product myself, then I don't think it's worthwhile, to get that feedback from others. But once I felt like it was, the things I didn't like about it were very subtle, then I started sharing it to others.
I see. And now let's move on to um, the beautiful side, like the packaging and another
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a marketer. And what was the process? Because this thing is beautifully built and also well designed. How did you make this? With who?
That was also just me testing all the time.
The
So
design of the label?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I also did many variations of the labels over time. So I started out with a label that I thought was so cool because it said Naomi in massive letters that you had to turn the bottle to be able to even read it.
Yeah, I
And
voted for that one. I remember you
yeah,
A/B tested.
and I was so excited about that one, but I realized very quickly as soon as I launched that people were posting pictures on Instagram, and no one that saw that picture without context would know that it said Naomi. So I said, okay, then
Oh,
I have to abandon that. Thankfully, I've only bought a few hundred labels of that version now to a new version. Um, and then with the new version, every few hundred, you say like, well, what would I change a little bit different? And you have to really resist the urge to buy uh, in bulk and save a few cents per label because you want to give yourself the ability to iterate over time. So I've gotten much, much better at like graphic design since I started this. Like, um,
You also
I
don't have any graphic design background or
correct.
degree education. Yeah, not only graphic design, but there's like a bottle here. Um, you know,
Mhm.
is that all University of YouTube, or you do some different research here, or you get help and support?
I mean, I think I've benefited from the fact that this is a product that's kind of between personal care and beauty and food, like ingredient CPG.
Mm-hmm.
So I can look at like I can go to Sephora and be inspired, and I can go to the grocery store and be inspired. Um, and so I've just felt like I've had so many ideas to, yeah, kind of give me a reason to go back into the app and try something new, like,
Yeah,
try a different design.
from idea to execution, that's different story. Like when you have
Yeah.
some vision in your mind, how did you craft out the first version of the label or the shape of the bottle? Like using what? Like is on a notebook or is it AI tool or like yeah.
No, it would be, I just went straight into, first I used Photoshop and now I use Adobe Illustrator. So I've learned over time, like different tools.
Nice.
And yeah, I've just like kind of learned different things as I go. I like to give you an idea, I do not like the ball you have at all now. Like I've developed like like I'm so far past that. Like with the versions I want to take it, but now that things are bigger, it takes longer to launch what I want to launch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's gonna always be a process where I'm just learning, getting better, and like yeah. For example, when I
Mm-hmm.
look at that bottle, I actually think, um, the blue is cool, but it's not neutral enough for most kitchens. It's making a statement in kitchens,
And that's a
but most
problem
but that can
because
actually be a problem because you want to integrate into people's existing kitchen more so than you recreate their kitchen. I want people to feel comfortable adding this product into their existing life. So I'm that like future bottles are likely going to be aluminum. And then like a brush matte aluminum is going to fit a lot better into that context. And there'll still be a place for character in blue and things like this. But if you look at Aesop, for example, like those bottles will fit in anywhere. They're not as
mm,
opinionated as this bottle in a good way.
mm.
And you can still have an opinion and like yeah, like you can
You
still
could still be a statement,
yeah,
but
exactly.
naturally integrated into the
Yeah,
context where it sits.
yeah.
Wow. Where did you learn about this?
It's just thinking about soap all the time.
um, so um, did you just pump all the mix, the formula you created into the bottles, stick
Yeah.
on the label, put into the box, all at home, the kitchen and the garage?
Yep. Yeah, the process for filling each bottle
Yeah.
requires 5 pumps from this thing.
Oh, you
So
counted.
13,000 bottles times 5 times just filling the bottles takes a long time, and then labeling them is taking forever.
Wait, it's
The making
manual
Yeah, it's
pump?
manual.
And do
Yeah.
you do the by your one arm or you actually switch?
I can't switch the way it's set up, so unfortunately one arm. I mean,
Wow.
this like thankfully I'm working with the manufacturer now. So
Mm-hmm.
what you have is I can tell by the label is one that I made, but um, like yeah, those days are over. I'm gonna make about 200 more bottles, and then be fully retired from my soap making.
um, so what was the moment you were like, okay, um, actually talk to me about the first bottle that you sold.
Sure. The first bottle that I sold, I was very embarrassed by, because just everything that. So let's take the label. I didn't realize that, when you print from an image to a label and you're using like a PNG or something,
Mhm.
like an image file, like it's going to come out blurry. Compared to if you use, like a SVG, like something that's, like retains like the full curves and stuff. I didn't realize that um, applying labels perfectly straight would be so difficult. I didn't realize that, little placements that if you look at it in Photoshop, and it looks perfectly centered, that looks right. But in person, something perfectly centered on a personal care product actually looks low because like your brain kind of naturally pushes the
Push it
thing
down a
down.
little bit?
Um, so
Wow.
it's just like everything that I thought was going to be perfect, I make the first bottle. I'm like, okay, this, you know, I'm just glad I didn't make too many of these. That's what I was thinking. Like I can't wait for V2. And at every stage of this, it's been, I can't wait for the next version. It feels weird, but I have never been like proud of the product that I'm selling,
Mhm.
like because I'm always working on the next one. Um, so my goal is to be proud of it by end of summer this year.
I've heard this saying for all the founders. What they do or is basically break down whatever you've built and rebuild everything ground up again and then
hmm
repeat that process. Because when this thing is done, you're in your eyes, there's so many things just wrong. It's not living
Yeah,
up to your expectation and you want to iterate immediately again. I felt,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, I felt the same way. Um, how did you sell it? How did you sell the first bottle? And
On on Instagram, I just posted to my page, my stories, and I was like, friends, I'm doing this. Like, you should pre-order it. And then,
pre-ordered. Mm.
yeah, because at that point I had just purchased like a labeling machine and so I'm thinking like if this doesn't work out, like I better get a few pre-orders in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I got like a couple hundred bottles worth of pre-orders
Oh, wow.
to start out. Yeah. So um I was pretty I mean I'm so grateful that the product to start was supported by friends and family when it was really bad. You know what I mean? Like like I remember at first the place I was sourcing the bottles from, they weren't even that good. Like it was a little tilted sometimes, the top. And so I remember thinking like, okay, which of the people that ordered the product wouldn't care that it's a little tilted? And because I had so few orders, I could be like, okay, I'm going to send these the worst three bottles to my friend Mike, and I'll send these three to, and you do that sort of prioritization when you're not proud of it.
Oh gosh. I see. What did they say after receiving your product? Did they give you feedback? And also, by the way, it's not a cheap soap. The price
Yeah.
is pretty premium, I have to say. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the the feedback was way more positive than I imagined, actually.
Mm.
And so that's what made me start to take this more seriously.
I
Um,
see.
I think um,
What feedback did you get?
first the odor neutralization was really working well. Um, it was hard for me to know if I was experiencing a placebo effect when I was testing it, if it was actually going to neutralize odors or not. And so to hear that validation from friends and cooks, it's like, wow, okay, I stumbled on something that's pretty great here. And so I started to take it a lot more seriously.
Mhm.
Um, with the price, it's like I've tried to place this product at sort of this middle tier between the high end like Aesop soaps and the much lower, cheaper soaps.
Mhm.
And there's really nothing in this middle area. And because I think the way you deliver in the middle area is you have to show some of the premium, some of the brand, some of the luxury, signaling, but you
Mm.
also have to show performance. And it's hard to do both of those. But I think with fine dining, uh, I saw premium luxury performance at once. And I realized if I can lean into that fine dining aesthetic for this product, then I can signal that same, middle of the road And it's been successful. I think like Salt and Stone on the personal care side or Necessaire on the personal care side, like they're products that also do performance plus luxury, and they manage to be kind of a middle priced product. So
Hmm.
I kind of take reference to that those products when I do this.
Yeah, so you did some research, look into the segment and trying
Yep.
to figure out the pricing strategy, all that.
hmm
Yeah. And you've been selling online, so you pack by yourself and ship it out by yourself and everything is just you.
No, it was me. And then eventually I got a 3PL to ship for me when, I realized it's like if it takes me an hour of each day or 2 hours of each day to package things up, then like I could outsource that to someone else. So
Mm,
now I fill up I wait until the car is totally filled with soap and I drive it 2 hours away to the person that ships it for me.
I see. So
Yeah.
start to operationalize
hmm
this.
Yes.
What is the vision of this Naomi, this brand? Like, what are you building right now? I know you kind of like expanded the portfolio a little bit. I see
hmm
different things on Instagram. I got excited. But what's in your mind? Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously the focus so far has been a hand wash for home cooks. But I think if you zoom out,
Hmm.
there's just an opportunity for personal care products for makers, for people that build things. Like there's a increasingly fine line between professionals and amateurs when it comes to artists, cooks, people that do ceramics, really anyone that works with their hands and takes pride in what they do.
Hmm.
But one thing about the amateur is they're okay with spoiling themselves a bit when it comes to this activity because doing this activity is a luxury to them. Like for most people cooking, this is one thing I learned when I was working at Crème doing this video recipe app. For most people cooking, it's actually a special occasion. Like
Yes.
obviously you do the stuff for sustenance, but for the things that like when you actually think I'm cooking, it's a special occasion and you want the product that you want the whole experience to kind of rise to that occasion.
Hmm.
So, so I think there's lots of before and after personal care, or sorry, before and after like making something with your hands, personal care products that are possible.
Hmm.
So the first one is the after cooking hand scrub, also making a deodorizing hand balm that will come hopefully sometime in summer.
Is it like a hand cream kind of thing?
Yep, yep, it's a hand
Mm.
cream that will have similar like odor neutralization. Um, then so often I'm hearing from customers of Naomi that say they want a bathroom hand wash.
Yeah.
Um, and I've been trying to think of, like how do I stay true to this idea of personal care for makers and like close to that sort of craft while also delivering a bathroom hand wash. And what I landed on was actually like, well, actually, fine dining restaurants, let's build the perfect hand wash for these restaurants. Let's replace the Aesop in all these restaurants. And I sort of leaned into the cooking aspect where it's made with fragrances that use essential oils from plants native to Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
And it still has odor neutralization, so it's going to be the best food hand wash at any fine dining restaurant.
Wow, you
Lean
actually
into the
have to
glass
partner with the
bottle.
fragrance house as well.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so I realized like pretty quickly, like actually, I think I can stay true to this cooking and makers brand by building a hand wash that's perfect in the fine dining context.
Mm,
And so I'm really excited about that one. That's the first one that I did. I worked with a perfumer to create the fragrance, and like it's such a unique fragrance. We basically worked together to identify like what are the plants that remind me of foraging in Los Angeles, of walking through like a Los Angeles canyon, and how can we recreate that in a way that still smells fresh and clean. So it's been really fun.
You know what? That reminds me of I used to work for Airwick, which is a fragrance consumer brand,
Mm,
and we partner with a lot of fragrance houses globally. Every time we walk in to build a fragrance ourselves, it constantly reminds you about certain memory because I've
Mm,
learned that the fragrance, the smell can easily trigger a certain moment in your life.
yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah,
even had a marketing campaign. It's called like Home is in the Air. And the
nice.
story was like talking those armies who were deported to a different country, very far distance from families. And we extract the fragrance from their used product, like baseball glove, the pie baked by grandma, and we
Wow.
extract that smell, put it into the fragrance, then hand it over to them in person. And they smelled it, they instantly know what it is. And the story and the memory all coming back. So, yes, scientifically, it's proven that the fragrance will trigger all these
Yeah,
feelings, bring you back to
You want
exactly
to
where
see?
you were,
It's awesome.
um,
Here, smell.
and create this immersive experience for whoever is using it. So, it's definitely worth the
so cool.
investment. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
So,
fragrance is a big point for me next, like as I think of where the product goes next.
mhm.
Changing the packaging, changing the ingredients to be more clean. Like, like if you think Sephora has a clean ingredient standard, and the soap is gonna be it could be sold at Sephora, is
Mhm.
if Sephora ever wanted to. And then increasing or changing the fragrance to be a lot more bespoke and special. I've had so much fun designing the fragrances. So yeah, can't wait for those to launch.
Yeah, I think the fragrance is always the fun part. But I
Yeah.
also recognize there's tons of challenges, like scientific challenge. You're trying to neutralize the garlic smell. You
Hmm.
potentially want to kill some germs as well, but you don't want to make it too harsh. You don't want to make the fragrance too much overwhelming. Um,
Exactly.
there's a balance of this formula to meet in the middle that deliver all these while function wise is still working. And
Hmm.
to my knowledge, that's not easy. As I work for Lysol, which kills 99% of germs,
Hmm.
tons of scientists work at the back to make this product possible. I have you here, Preston, and trying to achieve a lot more things at the same time.
Yeah.
I know you run the experiments yourself for months and months. Um, is there any moment like it's just not gonna? I'm not enough. Like
Yes.
you know.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So let's just take what I've the bottle that you have, which I've
Yeah.
made in my garage. That's made with ingredients that I can buy as a consumer, right? Like, um, and it's made with tools that I can afford and fit in my garage. And it's made, with a very rudimentary understanding of how all this stuff works. You follow all the guidelines you can, but in the end, like I'm not a chemist. Once I've moved to a manufacturer, all those things can change. So now I can access ingredients that aren't available to consumers at prices that are far below, so I can reinvest in other parts of the recipe. And now we can use tools to create the soap that wouldn't have been possible for me to use. And with the help of the chemists at this manufacturer that I'm working with, can redesign the recipe in ways that I never would have imagined. So we'll take the fragrance, for example. So this is working with the perfumer. Um, we thought about like what would a after cooking hand scrub fragrance do really well? Well, it would probably smell great when you're using it. So you get that bloom of like excitement when you're using the product, but then it would dissipate very quickly because
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want one smell in my hands to go away and be replaced with another. I just want the sensory experience of that fragrance for a moment. So we specifically picked the fragrance components that are better at leaving faster.
Okay.
Um, and so that I never would have I never would have thought of that. You bring in experts in their own field and you tell them what you're trying to achieve. I think so many people are excited about this cooking idea. What does personal care look like for cooking? What does fragrance look like for cooking? And yeah, it gets everyone helping.
Yeah. Yeah. So you kind of tap into the professional manufacturer process. That's a
Hmm.
huge step. Um, I still see you as a single founder, have a teeny tiny little startup in the, starting from the garage and kitchen. But it feels like it's a milestone. Like we're moving from little thing into much more formalized,
Yeah.
properly made process. Um, what was the moment that you felt like, hey, I'm ready to invest? I believe there's money, a lot of money you need to invest into this, the
Yeah.
research, find the right vendor, all that. Yeah, what was the pivotal moment that you're like, okay, we're ready. We want to push to this
Mm.
next stage?
The the moment when I said I'm ready and the moment when the manufacturer was actually ready is
Mm-hmm.
an entire year apart, unfortunately. So that's been the big problem for me. I felt like I was ready as soon as I could project sales and say, oh, well, within a year, I could sell the minimum order quantity with a manufacturer. Um, so I just make the assumption that I would prefer to sell any product I buy within a year. Um, and, the manufacturer, minimum order
How
quantity.
much? How many bottles were in your mind? Like, yeah, in a year, I'm
Yeah.
probably going to sell that much.
Well, I mean, the minimum order quantity per fragrance with most manufacturers is like 5,000 units. So as soon as I was selling, you know, a couple hundred units a month and projecting growth, I'm like, okay, well, like I
Oh,
reached out to the manufacturers, within 5 months of the first sale,
but I'm going to
for me.
challenge you here a little bit
Yeah.
because it's very hard to start from zero to a few hundred, which you explained support from family and friends, but they're family and friends, and they're not going to buy all your inventories.
Yeah.
So from
Yeah.
that few hundreds to 5,000, it's a true challenge.
Yeah. It was market validation. So basically in February of last year,
Mm-hmm.
Epicurious uh, did a like a email newsletter to the so Epicurious is a recipe website. Um, and at one point I sent in the exact follow that you have to a bunch of uh different like publications to see if they would open it and read it. I don't know, see if they would respond. And Epicurious didn't respond until they sent me an email that said, "Hey, tomorrow we're gonna publish like a review into our newsletter." And that was, more sales in that day than I had done, other than the pre-orders. That was the most I had done the entire time. Or sorry, like that one day of sales totaled all non-pre-order sales for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, okay, so you're telling me when this gets in front of the target market, which is a pretty uh like commonplace target market. These are people that like recipes, right? Like um then it will sell at a scale that makes me comfortable to invest. So I said, yeah, I'm gonna have to learn over time how to reach that target market efficiently. Um with ads, with I'll send this to more publications and all this, but clearly there is a target market for this. Um I was also motivated by the fact that I recognized that the bottles that I was making at home were not cheap to make because I was buying these at consumer prices.
Yeah.
The raw ingredients are about 4 times cheaper with a manufacturer. So I wanted to make that switch as fast as possible, even just for the purpose of saving money, saving time. So it like you couldn't compare 5,000 Preston made to 5,000 manufacturer made in that sense.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. Okay. So there was a 1 year gap. You're ready to move. What happened to the manufacturer side?
Oh my gosh. It just there were both like industry challenges and personal challenges. So the industry challenge was when all the tariffs hit last year. Um, all the um, personal care creators started to think, how do I reformulate my recipes with fewer uh, foreign-made ingredients? So the manufacturer that I committed to work with all of a sudden had a backlog of all their best customers to
Oh
work
my
with
God.
first.
I see.
So that was problem number one. And problem number two was when I went to the manufacturer, I didn't want them to recreate my exact recipe. I wanted to do things I couldn't do at home. And so that required re-engineering it. Like, for example, removing ingredients that I couldn't use at Sephora, for example, which is like such a totally arbitrary thing because Sephora isn't going to sell this at any time. But I still wanted to do it. Um, and yeah, that took way longer than I suspected, because it's actually a very unique recipe. I think usually when brands go to a manufacturer for personal care products,
Mm-hmm.
they say they basically just say, what are the marketing claims I want to make? And what's a product that's already on the market that this is really similar to? And then they basically dupe the existing product, add the
Yeah.
marketing ingredients, and say, here you go. This is what you want. But this was a product that was made from an outsider.
Mm.
So like it was a very novel formulation for them. And so it wasn't as simple as duping a recipe on file.
I'm not going to say all the CPG does that, but you're pretty on spot of this methodology in a high level. But I totally get it. You want to keep the integrity of the homemade formula. You invest months of months created from scratch. But at the same time, you're trying to advance it to the next level, incorporate whatever technology and ingredients that can make it even better. So that
Exactly.
makes it really, but I think that's also the reason why it's special and have a unique value. It's not the same another,
I
pencil.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So where did you find those manufacturer?
Well, it started with Google searching everywhere, and you'd be surprised at how little responses you get from manufacturers because they're looking to bring on the existing, like they're looking to capture someone that's manufacturing with someone else that's already proven the volume and the value more
Yeah.
so than they are someone that's starting from scratch.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I asked a few folks I know of like in the personal care space, like for their recommendations as well, and I just eventually I found a few that were worth trying. And this particular manufacturer that I found, the chemist actually has a long background in deodorization. And so that, like, actually, if you look at the products they manufacture across different brands, they're not actually doing much deodorization products other than like, a fancy deodorant. Like they're definitely not doing, like a food deodorizing thing. But the expertise that he brought and the sort of like some of the ideas that he had about how we could make this more of a culinary forward recipe that when you look at it, you see things that are like, oh, like that's actually a food ingredient. I really valued the ideas that he brought to the table. So that's why I went with this one.
I see. And they probably quote you. And was that something you think, yeah, I'm ready to invest? And did you invest just your own money?
Yeah, I was ready to invest ASAP at that point because I was spending all my hours making soap, like every weekend and,
Every
day
morning.
after work. Yeah. I was making soap, and so um it was time. It was time for me. And yeah, it was personal investment so far. Um so
Have you
well
calculated the ROI, all the stuff you learned from Wharton, all the stuff you learned from the real business world, um, before you make this investment decision? Or you kind of like, hey, I'm mission driven and have a very strong feeling of this product and I believe it's gonna succeed. I'm all in.
I think it's somewhere in between that, I
Mhm.
guess. Like I would not describe I definitely didn't do an ROI calculation. There was no like math, right? That definitely did not happen.
Okay.
But I wouldn't describe it as me just saying, "Oh, I'm going to wing it." It was more like, okay, um I recognize that this is an idea that has shown some real market validation. Um but to really prove that market validation or to really make this worth it, I
Mm-hmm.
need to take a bigger bet on scale. Like in order to eventually reduce the cost or make the product better, it has to scale.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like either I stop doing this now, because like I'm not going to be able to achieve those goals I want to achieve while only doing it in the
Yeah.
kitchen,
Right.
or I just go for it. And yeah, so I chose to go for it because
I
it's more
see.
fun to do that.
So I'm going to ask you, when you're investing in, how much revenue you've got. We can cut this off if it can be disclosed.
No, it's
I'm
fine.
curious.
Yeah. So I did 250K in revenue the first year, which was pretty awesome.
What's the margin? No, maybe we shouldn't talk about margin the most. But that was the kitchen margin. That's the kitchen
Yeah.
garage margin. Are you making money?
Yeah.
Or you're pretty much...
I'm not making money yet because at every stage you're reinvesting, right? Like,
Right.
so right now it's particularly precarious stage because I've invested in, more inventory coming in from the manufacturer than I've sold.
Mm.
And so, like,
But you're predicting the demand. So
yeah. And the unfortunate part and why you end up needing investors for this sort of thing is like the way you grow is you constantly have to take bigger bets on the order size. Next time I'm probably going to double the order size so I save more further cost.
Yeah.
And so at each stage it's like, you got to dig deeper.
And also constantly need to reformulate, re-innovate everything around this product inside out. 250K for the first year for the sales.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
From the garage.
Yeah. It's a hassle. You know how competitive this vertical is?
Yeah.
You mentioned about the PR effect that took you off. Anything else that pushed you to the next level? Or that was pretty much it?
That was by far the biggest thing because once that started picking up, like for example, other publishers started talking about it as well, I realized I could only make soap as fast as I could fulfill that demand. So I really am curious what my revenue would have been last year if I had stock after Black Friday. Like I sold out after Black Friday. And this year has been tougher because I've had to go after a couple months of no inventory, start to bring back my ranking and all this. So it's actually been I'm ahead of where I was last year this time, but I'm not riding the highs that I was at its peak last year. Definitely not.
I see.
But the publications has been the huge thing for me. And I'll continue to rely on those this year, but this year I have to start to focus on more of the low-hanging fruit about like the marketing funnel, right? Like I have to start like experimenting more with ads and need to make a TikTok shop, like all the things that I didn't do last year because I was focused on making the soap.
So you were not even investing in the ads while this thing took off, or it was very minimum ads investment.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning of the year, I was testing with ads, and then shortly after these publications started writing about it, I had to back off.
I see.
Yeah.
And this thing is getting bigger and bigger and getting serious. I can see the portfolio start to expand, working with fragrance house and the manufacturer and the chemistry. It become a real business.
Yeah, it is.
And I just want to say at the same time, Preston does have a real business running in Korea. Well, you're also as a principal product marketing manager at Reddit as a full-time job. Tell me about your day, a typical day, how you handling both business at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thankful that right now, with the manufacturer on board, well, actually, let me back up. Before I had the 3PL, the person shipping it for me, I could not have done Reddit and this job because that would have required multiple hours a day, potentially packaging up product. But the way I had it set up as soon as I started working at Reddit was I have the 3PL shipping things for me, and everything else, whether it be making the soap, delivering the soap to the 3PL, sending out samples to publications, those are things I can batch. So I basically made my setup where I can make 1,000 bottles at one over a couple weeks, on nights and weekends, and then some other weekend I'll bottle them, and then some other weekend I'll ship them. So I purposely set up where nothing requires 9 to 5 uh, focus. So
Obligation. Yep.
yeah, exactly. So I start my day at like 7:30. I'll just get a half hour in of Naomi stuff, and then I work from like 8 to 4:30 on Reddit, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'll do a couple hours of Naomi stuff, and then the weekend I'll do Naomi stuff.
It sounds very reasonable,
Yeah.
but I would imagine this full-time job, which we'll talk a little bit later, um, will force you to think about how to operate your own business, pure from like startup business operation standpoint, and as a leader, as an owner. What have you so far been learning?
To me, what I'm learning is just the value of delegating things to others, right? Um, you take, for example, Amazon
Mm.
ads.
Mm-hmm.
I literally build ad platforms for my job. I should be running the Naomi Amazon ads, but I don't. I actually hired someone that's running the Amazon ads for me, and it's just recognizing that like in some ways the value that I can bring to Naomi right now is just having cash and stability by working at Reddit, and I can delegate things to people that are good enough. I don't like so I'm trading, margins in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not focused on the whether Naomi brings in any profit right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I have to trade every dollar to delegate everything while it grows until it's at the point where it's worth it for me to work on it full time, then that's what I'll do. And working at Reddit has forced me to make those decisions in ways that I think if I was doing just Naomi, I probably would have tried to do it all. I probably would have been shipping everything myself. And after 3 hours passed for the day, I'd be like, oh, darn, if only I had time to work on marketing, um, and so it's forced me to reconcile the fact that um, I should only be focusing on the most important things for the business, um, and I should delegate to others.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of founders, famous ones or the ones around myself, saying this. As a founder, you kind of need to force yourself to only focus on the things or the value can only be delivered by you,
Hmm.
and trying to outsource or delegate to others or who might doing even better than you do, no matter it's the ads
Yeah.
or formula. Um, which I think, is exactly what you're doing and actually potentially push your business to a much more scalable and
Hmm.
successful stage, without you even noticing because
Yeah.
you kind of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
being forced to think in that way. Um, why did you go to a full-time job while you're, building
Hmm.
something extremely passionate about? How's that sequence and the process look like?
To me, it was recognizing that this won't be an overnight success.
Mhm.
Um, in order, like, even if you just take like this company's ability to pay me a salary, right? Um, like, I'm not trying to have a salary comparable to when I was working at Meta or something like that, but even to have a salary that it feels worth it for this to be full time, the volume that I'm selling has to be much higher than it is. And for the volume to be much higher, I have to go through cycles with manufacturer. I've got to increase the SKUs, and like those all take time. And a lot of it isn't even hands-on time. It's like, with the manufacturer, I'm going to wait another month until the next version of the hand balm comes in. Like, and so I would much rather just, uh, yeah, like have the income so I can focus on like break even increase in sales volume. And then later, once it's achieved that volume, focus on how I can change things to make it more of a full-time
Mm,
option.
makes sense.
Hmm.
And I feel this is a much more realistic path for a lot of first time, founders who wants to do
Hmm.
something. Um, was that an intentional decision or was it like a opportunity presented by itself?
It was intentional, because I was already working on Naomi when I started applying to to Reddit, for
Mm,
example. And I purposely like I chose Reddit in part because it's a job that felt comfortable to me, right? This is a role that's very similar to the role that I had at Meta. So I'm able to um, yeah, kind of compartmentalize the two things in my life in a very easy way.
mm-hmm.
And I also benefit from the fact that I have fun doing the soap. Like that's kind of my hobby time. Just as I was focusing on cooking before, I'm, focusing on this.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the career ambition. You know,
Hmm.
going back to Wharton, you probably had a different ambition, even though you're doing the ramen thing at the same time, but you probably had a different ambition and you got into Meta. And at Meta, for all those years, for 5 years, you probably have a different ambition of career versus
Hmm.
today's you. Um, Walk me through that journey and where you are today.
Yeah. I think that I've always had this hypothetical
Mm,
desire to do something on my own just because of the way that, like, I think it would be better integrate into having good work-life balance. But I've never in life felt like now's the good time to try that. It's always been, at Meta, it's like, well, let me just keep moving up the ranks, keep trying my best, and then maybe one day I'll have some cool idea.
mm,
Um, and I think working at Crème, the startup, uh, kind of helped me to see how possible it is to do something small. And so that kind of inspired me to take a little bit more seriously the idea of doing something on my own. Um, but it was a desire that always existed.
mm.
But what changed was, I guess, the confidence and the circumstance. Like if I didn't have this idea, I would probably still be doing
The
the
same
meta
corp job.
style stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. And well, there are moments like because a lot of founders or even people like us
Hmm.
who people like who work at large tech have this little desire and fire, at the bottom of the heart, but lots of fear of taking a leap.
Yeah.
Um, you know, you kind of took a leap pretty early on, even at Meta. I'm like, I'm going to learn about cooking
Right.
in a very different country for a couple of months, and then we'll figure out, even though you kind of know, like, I can always go back if I want. But nothing is certain. There's a certain
Hmm.
level of uncertainty there. Uncertainty will drive the anxiety. And then you worked on a startup, which didn't necessarily immediately work out. There are tons of challenges. Then you work on your own new thing, brand new industry. Um, you kind of need to figure out on your own. I think every step
Hmm.
there is a bigger and a bigger level of uncertainty to what you're doing. Um, Looking back, how did you handle those moments or those stress, if there is any, or
Yeah.
anxiety? As you mentioned, this thing is not going to give you the salary comparable to the Meta at that moment with
Hmm.
all the, stock and everything. Um, how did you handle those hesitation? Were there
Yeah.
any hesitation? Um,
I I would say, when it comes to jumping into something uncertain,
mm,
for me, if it's at least aligned with a passion, I'm okay with the temporary uncertainty. Like I am definitely a strong believer that, none of the decisions we're making are that permanent as as in the career sense, especially when you have a resume of things in the past that can kind of show a validation.
mhm,
Uh, so So I wasn't that uncertain jumping into the cooking, for example, or going to the food, uh, the tech startup. Um, when it comes to doing my own thing and, like going all in on Naomi, for example,
mhm.
you could say I'm still very uncertain because I haven't done that yet. I have chosen to, s- to work at Reddit and maybe that makes the most financial sense, but maybe it's not the fastest way to grow the business. maybe if I had the fire under my feet, I would move faster. So yeah, I think I'm still uncertain there. If I look at my career and like why I didn't do entrepreneurship sooner,
Mm.
um, that's probably a strong source of uncertainty. Is that like I'm very critical of my own ideas. Like before this hand wash, I don't think there was a product that I would have ever put my weight behind that I came up with, whether it's like a tech one or otherwise. Um, so I think finding the right idea can be a game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah. And what I hear is like there's a huge portion about passion, like
Hmm.
having fun. I love that. And you also evaluate, is this a two-way door? Like, can I just go back? Or
Yeah.
is, if it's a two-way door, it lowered the barrier significantly. And now at the same time, you kind of like, okay, I might apply for a full-time job just as safety net, and which I feel confident to do, while at the same time kind of like make this business potentially more sustainable because I'm in the mindset, knowing I'm not under the stress of, I need to constantly worry about income and insurance and
Hmm.
everything else. Um, you don't have kids, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. You're in a relationship,
Hmm.
doing Naomi and invest a lot of time into it. On top of that, you have a full-time job. How does this thing impact your relationship?
I mean, Maria, my girlfriend, is a huge supporter. She was a big inspiration making the product because it's like, all right, it has to meet her standard of a great cosmetic product.
Hmm.
Um, so she's always cheering me on.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, the when I was at peak sales holiday season making product nonstop in the garage, that was a struggle. Like that was not good for any relationship. Um, because I was when I wasn't doing that, I was exhausted from doing that. Um, and and I needed to spend my mental energy on Reddit, right? Like I couldn't not show up for that. So what
Yeah.
suffered was like the interpersonal relationships.
Right.
Um, so thankfully that's behind us with the manufacturer. And that yeah, that was much needed. If that hadn't happened, if I wasn't able to go to the manufacturer then,
Hmm.
I think I think there probably would have been some breaking point either with Reddit or with Naomi or to prioritize personal relationships because otherwise it would have been too tough.
Yeah. So actually, that pivot, like the change, make the business and everything else much more sustainable.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. I can imagine that could be really hard, especially it's Black Friday, which is holiday season, and you're in the garage. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. This is such a amazing journey. Um, I can't stop but think about where is the name of Naomi coming from?
So you've heard so much of my story that it's going to make more sense now. Because when I explain this to most people, they're like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" Um, when I first moved to San Francisco after Wharton, and I was doing ramen pop-ups. The name for the ramen pop-ups was Naomi because it's a Japanese name and it's a Western name, and the ramen was Japanese and Western.
Okay.
And I just loved the use of like because I felt like my ramen was a little bit more delicate and like pretty than most ramen. So I loved that it was like a feminine name, also Western and Japanese. Um, when it came to naming this product, I had no idea, and so I just used Naomi as a placeholder.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and then it just stuck, and I was just like, yeah, it's a nice name. So
Oh my
the
gosh.
one thing I like about it is um, a product for home cooks
Mhm.
without this feminine name could be perceived as super practical, functional. It's like,
Harsh.
like harsh. It's for
Mhm.
cooks.
Yeah.
And so this it does a great job of balancing that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Adding a little touch of softness, but
Hmm.
perfectly delivered through, I think it's a very balanced design as well.
Thank
It's
you.
unified. Um, Great. Yeah. And now looking forward for about next 5 years,
Hmm.
where do you think it will be ideal? like 5 years later, I'm come back like, hey, Preston, let's do another podcast and tell me who you are. Ideally, in your dream, what do you think you want to tell me?
Well, I'm hopeful that I'm still doing Naomi and that it's a full-time thing at that point.
Mm,
I'm hopeful that because I've been able to focus on it full time, I've been able to treat it more like my cooking hobbies and things like this. Like, I guess um, if I grow it to the point where I have other people helping me with, the logistics and the marketing and all this, what I'd love to do is help build the brand as a cooking lifestyle brand. And the way you do that is you get involved in the industry, like you like make relationships uh with the top chefs, and you are like, building a community around the product and the adjacent stuff involved, whether that's cooking or other
mhm.
hobbies. So yeah, I would love to describe my life as one that's more connected with those sorts of hobbies because I've been able to delegate some of the other things, and it makes business sense for me to focus on those communities.